Hello everyone, welcome back to the Planes on the Prairie podcast. I'm Max, and today we're going to be doing a walk around of one of my personal favorite airplanes at the Fargo Air Museum, the L-19 Bird Dog. We're going to be mostly focusing on the historical side of the bird dogs, not so much the technical, mainly just because I don't really understand it, but we can always add some information into the video for you guys to read. But without further ado, let's get started. So the bird dog really stemmed from lessons learned during the Second World War, mainly from other L birds such as the L-2 grasshopper, the L-5 sentinel, stuff like that, where those aircraft were used for target marking, light liaison, or observation of enemy positions, or troop concentration, stuff like that. However, those aircraft were canvas, and they were very susceptible to enemy ground fire, small arms, and a couple of them, actually maybe more than a couple, were lost during the war due to those reasons. With the end of World War II, the L-19 or O-1 Bird Dog was seen as a pretty good replacement by Cessna. It was much more armored and could pack more weapons. Didn't actually have any machine guns, unlike the fighters of World War II. But these rocket tubes that they would have been equipped with would have been able to fire either white phosphorus or colored smoke to designate targets for much larger aircraft. During the Korean War, they would have been used to mark targets along the DMZ and then in North Korea, mostly for fast-moving U.S. Air Force and U.S. Navy and Marines flying F-4U Corsairs, F-86s, F-84 fighter jet or Thunder jets, stuff of that type. So the Bird Dog continued to see success even after the Korean War, serving with various state National Guard units. Interestingly, the North Dakota Army National Guard was equipped with an L-19D Bird Dog in the mid to late 1950s, and these would have been used for transporting the governor to small towns throughout the state when they didn't have to use aircraft such as the VC-47 or C-45 or B-25 that they had at the unit. During the Vietnam War, a couple years after that, bird dogs were still being used in their original role of marking targets. And interestingly, they were used by 3 of the major ground forces. In the Army service, they were still L-19 bird dogs. In the Air Force, they were O-1 bird dogs. And then in the U.S. Marine service, they were OE-1 bird dogs. So, all the same airplane, very little differences, but of course they all had different designations to make it more confusing for guys like us. So during the Korean War, L-19s were flown by a U.S. Army pilot. However, depending on the mission, there could have been a U.S. Air Force pilot or forward observer in the back seat marking targets for U.S. Air Force fighter jets such as F-80s or F-84Gs attacking North Korean or even Chinese positions. So the Fargo Air Museum's bird dog is marked in similar markings to that of a Korean War era bird dog from 1951 until 1953. You can tell that because they would have bright yellow U.S. Army tail markings on the tail, whereas during the Vietnam War, all of those would have been ditched in favor of just having a subdued black U.S. Army right on the fuselage. This particular one is serial number 51-16902, and unfortunately we really couldn't find that much information on its service history. We do know that it was assigned to several Civil Air Patrol units within the United States during the 1950s through the 1970s, and it was actually withdrawn from use by the CAP after a landing accident, we believe, in the South. After that, it went through several civilian hands before it wound up here in North Dakota. You might notice that the tail number is also very large. That made for easy identification, whether in action or on the ground during maintenance. This aircraft's sister airplane, 16903, actually did see combat during the Vietnam War and still exists today in a museum in Australia. So pretty cool. We're always happy to find those little connections between airframes. Another really cool connection for us here local to North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, Camp Ripley, the museum out there at the U.S. Army, U.S. Army base, actually is home to the second bird dog ever built. Unfortunately, I don't know the serial number off the top of my head, which is crazy that I don't actually. But yeah, the fact that the second bird dog ever built, I don't even think it's a prototype. It's the second production aircraft is on display at a small museum. But yeah, we hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. Again, the Bird Dog is one of my all-time favorite aircraft here at the Air Museum, and it's such an incredible history stemming from such an iconic civilian airplane like the Cessna. So we hope you enjoyed, and we hope you stick around for more content coming soon. So with that, have a great rest of your evening.